Yikes! Are you a new PTO president that is starting with absolutely nothing or virtually nothing? Then this video totally is for you. We're going to talk about what you do now. If we haven't yet met, I'm Christina Heideck, founder of PTO Answers and a verified PTO nerd. I love to volunteer in my kids' schools and help parents become a stronger volunteer so that they can run better PTOs. So a lot of times the PTO president role is one that people don't necessarily get into voluntarily. Either no one else wants to do it, so they feel compelled to do it, or they've been maybe voluntold that they should do it. That's when someone says, hey, I'm going to nominate Cassie for president, even though Cassie isn't at that meeting. That's a no-no, my friends, but still it happens. And so you may find, maybe Cassie finds that she doesn't know that she should say no, or feels like, oh, well, if Amanda thinks I can do it, then I should do it. But in any case, if you find yourself, you're in a position where you're just kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing or what I should be doing, then you're going to want to watch to hear all the tips I'm going to share in this video. So this is really good for people, like I said, who are starting either from scratch or that the previous president has ghosted them. Because what I guess my point in saying of why people a lot of times feel like pressured into it, they're not keen on really taking good records or preparing things to pass on to the next president, because they either feel like, well, I started with nothing and figured it out, so they can do it, which is kind of a really super shitty way to be, in my opinion, or they just don't think about it. Maybe they're just not good at capturing that information, or they don't have a system because they're not organized. They don't have a system to capture all that information and turn it on to the next person in a systemized fashion. So they don't have a binder to share with them, for example. Maybe they don't use a binder. Maybe they've foregone all paper for some reason, and they're like, oh, I can do everything digitally, which is great for you, but maybe not for your predecessor, because people still do work in an analog world. What you can do if you don't have anything, one, you can reach out to previous presidents and see if they have something. This is exactly what I did, because when I took over for a council president position, the previous president, yes, they did give me things, but they only gave me their information for the past couple years, and they weren't a particularly strong leader. So I felt like they had made changes that were not in the best interest of the group. I didn't really like their leadership style. And so I really wanted to see what previously had been done. So that's what I did. I reached out to a president that had been in that position when I started way back in the PTA to begin with. And that was like, she must have been president like at least 7 or 8 years prior. And so I said, any chance, do you have anything? And she's like, oh yeah, I have everything in a Google Drive. I'll share it with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I reached out to her, because it really gave a full history. And so I could compare and see what changes had been made to the agenda, for example, see the format, to see if there was anything I was missing. And in fact, there were some things that I felt were important to kind of reclaim and go back to. And then it just really represented a more fuller picture of the PTA as a whole, because she had like everything. So it was really nice. So I was able to pull that into our Google Drive. So I had more of a complete picture, which was more helpful for me and more helpful for my predecessors, because they would have that full picture and wouldn't just have the limited scope that the previous president to me had provided. So you can definitely reach out to previous people. You can reach out to a friend of the president if that president has ghosted you and has not provided any information at all. Find someone who has an in with her and can kind of facilitate getting the information for you. Sometimes you can reach out to a principal to see if they have sway, and because that's an authority figure, and sometimes people are more responsive to them, especially if someone has left with like a bad taste in their mouth, or they didn't have a good experience, or they were voluntold and they didn't say no, and then they had like a crappy experience. They might just like want to like leave entirely, which is not good. That's not the way to leave, but some people choose to do that. And so having your principal reach out to them and say, hey, look, we just need to get the binder, or we just need to get the password, or whatever kind of information there is like that, can be super helpful. And This brings me to my other point is that you should really, if you're going to have digital files, have more than one administrator responsible so that if one person decides to go off the rails, then you have a backup and you're not totally hosed. So then once you have the materials, what do you do then? Well, one, you check the calendar and look at what dates are upcoming, what programs that you need to schedule, or what programs are already on the schedule that you need to make happen. You need to check your budget. Is there enough money to do everything that you want to do? If not, talk with your fundraising chair and get them to get a fundraiser on the books so that you can get that money coming in. And then you also need to check what positions are open in your PTO. So what officer or like leadership positions are there as far as like on your executive board and even committee chairs. So the president's role can be one of the very easiest in the entire PTO because you're not necessarily doing anything, if that makes any sense. You're not really in charge of events. Like those should be with other committee chairs or officers. You're really just in the role of being like the central information person, that you receive it and that you send it back out as far as connecting people with who they need to talk to and making sure that everything is running smoothly. But the hiccups come and the difficulties come into play when you have open positions that are unfilled. And so the president needs to step into those roles. And that's when it can be really time consuming because you're suddenly finding yourself juggling a whole lot of plates that are hard to juggling plates? That's funny. Okay, you know what I mean. Juggling balls, and they're hard to keep everything in the air, and that's when you can really lead to burnout. So again, you want to check the calendar, check your budget, and check those open roles and get everything taken care of ASAP. So I hope this video has been super helpful and made you feel like there is some help out there if you have been ghosted or if you are starting with nothing. There are some remedies, and of course, if you're unable to recapture that information or reclaim that information, then you are going to have to start from scratch. But that's okay because really then that's opening you up to doing kind of things in your own style, and you're not going to feel bound by what did or didn't happen before because you don't have information about that. So really that should make you feel freeing. If you are starting from scratch, I will go ahead and recommend the President Success Kit. That will help you get up to speed really quickly because it gives you a monthly kind of to-do list that is kind of universal. And then of course you're going to go ahead and customize it with what needs to happen that month for your group. But it's a great starting point. It can also help you get organized both with paper and digitally. So I highly recommend it. I will drop a link to that resource in the description below. And I hope you have really enjoyed watching this video. It's given you some confidence and motivation to go forward. And I will see you in the next video. Want even more guidance on how to be a stronger leader so you can run a better PTO or PTA? All these resources and more are waiting for you at PTOanswers.com.